The Senate Committee on Education will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Senator Buck, Senator Doñate, Senator Flores,
Present.
Senator Hammond, Senator Neal, Senator Titus, Chair Lang. All right.
Please let the record reflect we have 5 members present. We do have a quorum. Please mark Senator Lang as absent excused and Senator Doñate. And as Senator Doñate makes it back into the room, please mark him as present. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Education Committee. Our chair unfortunately had to take care of some personal matters and will not be joining us for today. That is the reason why I'm having the honor of chairing for today. On the agenda, we have Senate Bill 65, Senate Bill 251, and a presentation. We will take the items exactly in the order they appear. I want to remind folk, particularly those of you who will be testifying, to please provide our committee secretary with your business card in case we need to get a hold of you for minute purposes. I want to remind everybody as you approach the microphone to please state your name for the record after each question. I want to remind folks to please silence your cell phones. I am doing that myself now. In the interest of time and efficiency, we will be limiting remarks, and those of you testifying support, opposition, or neutral to 2 minutes. I have a timer up here. Please don't take it as a sign of disrespect if I interrupt you. Just know that we're trying to be as efficient as we can. And then lastly, I also please do not take it as a sign of disrespect. A lot of us are working off of our laptops. If we are not making eye contact and or if we're focused on our laptop, we're probably following along. Please don't think that we are ignoring you. With that, we will open up the hearing on Senate Bill 65, which revises provisions relating to the boards of trustees of county school districts. Good afternoon. Welcome whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yes, it is. My name is Patricia Haddad. I am the Director of Government Relations for the Clark County School District. I'm here to present Senate Bill 65, which seeks to make adjustments to requirements for those serving or seeking to serve on a school board of trustees, namely strengthening training requirements currently in statute and by shoring up requirements on background checks for trustees in service of keeping kids safe. The proposed legislation has gone through a number of iterations over the past several weeks, plus some additional clarifications that have come about from conversations with this body. I want to emphasize that we've made a concerted effort to be responsive and thoughtful about what we would bring before you today, because we believe it's critical to inject the same standards for all boards of trustees across the state in order to meet the need for increasing professionalism and ensuring that school board members demonstrate the capability and capacity to perform their roles. And this is all in service, of course, of supporting high-quality student outcomes. And as we've garnered the support of trustees from across the state in both rural and urban districts throughout these conversations and these iterations, and I want to go ahead and introduce my co-presenters today as well. We have Trustee Evelyn Garcia Morales, who is President of the Clark County School District Board of Trustees. She's over there in Grant Sawyer in Southern Nevada. We've got Trustee Laurel Crossman, President of the Carson City School District Board of Trustees, and Mr. Rick Harris, the Executive Director of the Nevada Association of School Boards. And if you don't mind, Senator Flores, I will give them a moment to introduce themselves and share some context.
Please, we'll go to Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Evelyn Garcia Morales, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Clark County School District Board of Trustees. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Clark County School District in support of SB 65. And I want to share that a little bit over 3 years ago, I remember sitting in front of my laptop late at night, Googling the requirements to become a school board trustee in Nevada. And my search results led me to an application for vacant seats on the board of trustees and links to some training requirements once you were elected. Neither of those circumstances applied to me at the time when I was preparing to file. I was sure that there had to be some sort of high school graduation requirement, a college degree, a criminal background check, at the least leadership experience, in order to run for this position. And unfortunately, I was finally conducted enough research to determine that the only requirement was to live in the district which we represent. And I want to share with you personally why that was important to me, because as I've now served in this role for 2 years and several months, my first term trustee, I know for certain that trustees have the ability to help board focus on student outcomes, or they, and certainly in this position, I am committed to student outcomes. And this role is incredibly important and essential to the work of our school districts. So I'm certainly, I wanted to share that this is both an important responsibility that we have and something that that I take very seriously. And as you may have seen, school boards across the country and really throughout our state have been publicly under attack, especially as communities become more sharply divided along political lines. These fights continue to spill into boardrooms across the nation, and boardrooms really are meant to be apolitical, and so solutions, I believe, for these issues must be also apolitical if we're going to have any chance to continue to focus on student outcomes. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Laurel Crossman. I am currently serving as the board president of the Carson City School District. I have served as a board member in Carson City for the last 11 years. I'm also here representing NASB, the Nevada Association of School Boards. I am serving currently on the executive committee as a past president. I was the president of NASB in 2021. NASB has working through with the amendments. NASB and all of the counties that have met with our legislative committee are in support of this bill. For over 60 years, NASB has supported the professional development of school board members through trainings. We are in support of the additional 12-hour requirement for the first year, adding that to it. If a member attends all of the trainings, they're very easily going to get that amount of training in the first year. We have trainings even not in the first and third year. We continue to offer that training. Little background, I guess, about me and where I came from. I was born and raised in Carson City, graduated from the Carson City School District, have 5 children who have all gone through the Carson City School District who have since graduated, and I have a senior this year. Practiced law before I decided to practice motherhood, and then was involved in PTAs. And while supporting the schools through PTAs, the position came up on the school board, and I thought this is a way that I can provide back to the community that has helped develop me and help all the other children. I think that that's what you'll see with most school board members across the state. They want to give back to the communities that have helped them and to support that. And the variety of backgrounds of school board members across the state, even we have retired people in education, we have retired law enforcement, we have some with health backgrounds, some with engineering backgrounds currently on my board, some who work in higher education. I think the variety of experiences is what that board members come with gives us a greater strength on a school board, but the training that we have and learning how to be board members is this type of training would provide that cohesiveness and help them to be more successful and more productive, because we know when boards are working together and working productively, student outcomes do improve. And so hopefully this will lead to ensuring that the members that are on boards are as trained and as able to do the job as well as they can.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick Harris. I'm the Executive Director for Nevada Association of School Boards. And we're support of this because we think it's a positive step. At NASB, as Laurel said, we're all about training. We not only have extensive training, but we have mentoring programs. And we just really thrive in that area and think that it's a key to producing skillful and collaborative board members. We also believe that this bill encourages candidates to be proactive and to go out there and get certification and education before they even become a school board member, which kind of makes sense because like when we have teachers, we expect them to go get some skills before they even step in the classroom. So we think that's really positive. We also like the addition of roles, responsibilities, and limitations. This is something that we always weave into our training anyway at NASB, but it's not required. We like the idea of it being required. And in general, we just feel like it makes sense. And we, like Laurel said, we have a legislative committee that represents the whole state. We meet regularly and have good discussions about this. And we support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia Haddad, for the Clark County School District. So I'm going to spend a few moments to walk through some of these changes. You should have the latest version of the amendment in front of you, and that's been provided to the committee secretary as well to get posted. And I believe that there are copies here for folks that are in the room. But so to provide some additional context and walk through this, so the Nevada Constitution allows the legislature to use its powers to encourage and secure the proper functioning of the public school system by all suitable means. And while many public offices only have qualified elector and residence requirements, certain public offices also have qualification requirements related to age, residency, lack of criminal felony conviction, training, licensure, employment, and experience in a related field. Some examples include public administrators. So they may not have been found liable in a civil action involving a finding of fraud, misrepresentation, material omission, misappropriation, theft, or conversion. Another example would be constables who may not have been convicted of a felony in the state or in any other state. And there are also certification or employment experience requirements for the Office of Sheriff, offices of the Attorney General, district judges in the Nevada Supreme Court. And so to that end, we are proposing some of the following changes, which again have been adjusted from the draft language and are working on a redlined version. So referencing this document, so in relation to training. So currently, trustees are required to complete training within the first and third year of their terms, 6 hours. And so what we're proposing to change this to is that training may be completed up to 12 months prior to election, but must be completed no later than 12 months after swearing in. Maintaining the current requirement of training occurring in the first and third year of service. Folks that go through this training in the 12 months prior, that would count towards their first year. In addition, increasing the total number of hours required for training from 6 to 12 hours, with no less than 4 hours focused on the role and limitations of serving as a school board member. And finally, noting the completion of this training on the school district's website, where other information about the trustees is noted. With regards to the selection of training, we propose that the Department of Education identify approved training vendors and that the Board of Trustees must adopt a policy to select one of the approved training vendors in order to ensure that members of the same board receive the same training. So different boards may make a different selection, but we want to ensure there's continuity for the members of any one particular board. And then in order to ensure there is accountability aligned to the training and the learnings therein, the board must also adopt accountability policies to address board members who commit serious infractions during their service. Things like disclosure of confidential information from closed sessions or individual actions in which a board member willfully and knowingly engages in, which creates a legal liability for the board or the district. This policy must also include an option to censure a member of the board. So that's the training requirements and the accountability aligned to that. And I'm going to shift now into the components around background checks. So currently, essentially everyone in the public education system, whether they're employees, coaches, volunteers, are required to go through a background check, and we're proposing that trustees do the same. We've had a number of discussions with members of this committee and other legislators in the community, and we heard you, and we heard some of the concerns that were at hand in the sort of original drafting and proposal. And so where we've landed at this point is that after a candidate is elected, but before they're sworn in, a trustee-elect must follow the fingerprinting process that is already required for volunteers and others, and that's outlined in, currently outlined in law. And then if an individual does not meet the standards outlined, they may not be sworn in, and the seat would be considered vacant. And then board vacancies would be filled through their existing board governance policies, and those that dictate the protocols for how board vacancies can be filled. In addition to that, the school district would be responsible for paying the fee for fingerprinting. So that's really, I think, the meat of what we have before you today. Again, this is really about ensuring that kids are safe, ensuring that we have high-functioning school boards that are driving towards high-quality student outcomes. We know that accountability has to occur at every level of the system, and that, to the extent that we are all sort of driving, again, towards this idea of ensuring that our kids have high-quality outcomes, and that the students in Nevada have a really positive experience and a rigorous experience when they're in our public schools here. So I will stop there. And open, we're all available for questions. We've got our 2 school board members as well as Rick Harris from the association that can answer questions about training. And so we are grateful for your time and consideration.
Perfect, and thank you for that presentation. At this time, we'll open it up for questions, members, and we'll start off with Senator Neal, please.
Thank you. So I have a series of questions. So can you give me a quick example of what would be considered confidential in a closed session?
Confidential matters, public school boards in the state of Nevada there's limited instances in which we can hold closed session, but when you do hold closed session, it would be contract negotiations with your bargaining units. You can have closed sessions before that, and some of that information should be kept confidential. You could subject the school district to unfair labor practices. Some disciplinary matters, but particularly of students, are confidential regarding expulsion hearings and those type of things that boards sit in on. Those are confidential. And then some employee disciplinary proceedings are also confidential. Those would be examples.
Okay, thank you for that. Because in the proposed amendment, you have who commit serious infractions during their service, but not limited to disclosure of confidential information, and then individual actions in which a member willfully or knowingly engages or creates legal liability for the boards of the districts, right? So the first thing that came to mind was, what are those circumstances, right? And because a board member who is elected could be criticizing the board, and someone could interpret that as you're creating liability because they're discussing something that there is political dissension around, that there is disagreement for. And so where is the protection there, right? Number one, for that elected official who has wide breadth to criticize and say exactly what it is that they feel and think. Can you address that?
I'm thinking of situations that a school board member can criticize the district, and you can raise concerns in an open meeting.
And I apologize. If you could please identify.
Sorry. Laurel Crossman, for the record. I think that this would be a serious infraction of creating liability. If you are hearing potential settlement, in closed session, you may hear a potential settlement of a lawsuit. School districts do get sued. Some of those discussions, if that was to be disclosed willfully by a board member, that could subject the school district to liability. I think these are serious infractions. It wouldn't be the disagreeing about a variety of different policies and how best to solve a problem within a district. Those things occur in the open meeting at regular times.
Okay, thank you for that. So, and then my follow-up to that is, it's my understanding, because the immediate thing that popped in my mind was what's protected speech and what's not protected speech in the context of this environment, number one. what's protected when I'm inside of a meeting, right? And the conduct that is happening after I have left the meeting, and now I am freely speaking outside of the meeting, and the reach and the power to come over that conduct of an elected official who has now left the meeting and is speaking, right? And I want to understand, how did you guys do your analysis on what is protected and unprotected speech within that context?
Well, I would say regarding, I think it's a narrow possibility of where they willfully and knowingly engage to create legal liability. But what speech a board member has, they do have their First Amendment rights. Each board has a board policy that governs, and we worked on this several years ago with all the districts in the state to develop a code of conduct for trustees. So when the decision has been made, sometimes the losing party of a decision still is unhappy about it, but and they can express that that's not it, but that's part of how a board governs, is sometimes you lose and you go forward with what the majority has decided. There can be hindrances to the effectiveness of a board. Now, I don't think that complaining about that would rise to the level of a serious infraction, but I think it would be governed by individual board policies and that could be something that they define is how serious the infractions would be, and work with their legal counsel to address that.
And that remark was said by?
So sorry, Laurel Crossman.
Thank you.
One more question, and then hopefully you'll give me a second round. Okay, so I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm potentially not okay with the statements that are being made, but I want to get to the censure piece in the amendment, that the option to censure. Now, number one, censure is one of the highest ways that you can publicly punish someone, and the fact that you want to publicly do it is interesting to me. But it still, to me, drew the line in what are the powers to censure an elected official? And where is the line drawn between the board having the capacity to go in and censure? Because this all wraps into speech, right? Because now you're censoring someone based on it should be because there is a business interest, right, where you want to limit speech. But what hasn't been articulated, you just keep saying serious infraction, right? And so there still is a question on whether or not that serious infraction, whatever it is that you decide it is, right? Because the policy could change after we leave this building, whether that's still an appropriate action on the opinion or speech of an individual who is elected. And I keep saying elected because we're not talking about a regular citizen. And that would be it would be a different conversation, because there has to still be, it's my understanding, still a compelling need for you to limit someone's speech, right? And censorship, no idea what that means in terms of an elected board member being able to speak on an issue in the future or not speak on an issue in the future, or being told that because you created liability on something that could be something that the public needed to know because it's illegal, number one, contract discussion that probably created some misuse of public funds, and now that elected official is trying to figure out how to manage these contending, I guess, policies versus what they might appear to believe is a constitutional right to say something about a confidential closed meeting where there was an illegal act. Because there are two parts to this story, right? Everything is just on the board, but it's not on anyone else.
Colleagues?
Oh, please.
We'll go to Las Vegas, please.
Thank you, if I may. Evelyn Garcia Morales, for the record. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
That's yes, okay. Thank you. In response, in addition to what my colleague, trustee Crossman has shared already, I want to be clear that nothing about this bill is limiting First Amendment rights of individuals who are elected to serve on the Board of Trustees in this case. This is really about ensuring that the governing body is not subject to additional liabilities by ignoring legal advice that's provided by counsel. So, you know, the important aspect of this piece is to be clear, we are not limiting freedom of speech. However, we are, it is important for members of the board to reduce liabilities for school district. Now, and when I mean liabilities, I mean breaching contracts, breaching contracts with bargaining units, for example. Senator Neal, you mentioned ethical concerns. There are channels of communication and procedures that the community has access to, Ethics Point, which allows individuals who have concerns, anyone who has concerns about ethical violations with of any doings of anything, can access that easily, submit a complaint, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Appreciate those comments. I am super interested in what the analysis was by your legal counsel or whoever on the speech implications of the provision of your amendment. I want the answer to that, right? I believe there are some. I believe there's something in the censorship piece. I also see some of this language as trying to deal with some past behavior that were in the prior board that I know of happened potentially in Clark. And what I don't want is an imbalance of power, period. And I also feel like the board trustees are not the only beings who may engage in behavior that is probably improper or what you believe to be improper. And if you're going to put something on the trustees, then it should also go on the superintendent as well, flat out. And then my final question is actually in the language of the bill that you did not amend, which is it's on page 4, section 4. I believe it's, this is after you have done the act of running the fingerprints, giving the written notice of to the individual, and then having the opportunity for the person to have a hearing. And I guess the first question that came to mind is, where is this hearing and why is it not judicial? Because this person has now been elected, and now you have a vote of the people that you are going to reverse. So that should not be a hearing within the district modality.
Thank you. Patricia Haddad. So on that piece in particular, what had originally been proposed on the background check piece was that there would be involvement with the superintendent of public instruction, and that would be sort of a backstop. What we've done rather is to make that process be identical to the volunteer or employee background check process, and then ultimately align to that piece. And then if they don't pass that background check in the same way that potentially a volunteer or another employee wouldn't, that would be the triggering mechanism.
Thank you for that. And I guess the difference for me is they're not a volunteer. They actually were elected by a constituency who put them there, and then you're running the background check after the election before the swearing in. So I think that I personally believe, because it's an election and a vote of a people, there's probably a higher action that needs to occur that is not within the format of an employee or a volunteer, that this actually would create a pathway for them to seek a judicial action, because you have in here not just conviction, you have arrest. An arrest could not be a conviction. A charge could not have ended up in a conviction. And now you are placing it in the body of the superintendent to have a hearing on their rights. And I don't think that power is appropriate for that body. I think that should be a court action to then defend what they perceive to be their innocence or not, which would not be a decision made by that body. And so I have deep issues and concerns with that.
Thank you. Patricia Haddad, if it just may respond, duly noted. I hear you on that, and we will explore what options exist for ensuring that goes through the proper channels. I will say this particular section, we have had, a massive number of conversations about, and trying to ensure that it is both legal, constitutional, and takes into consideration, of course, the rights of the individual and that they receive their own due process. And so this has gone through a lot of iterations, and I appreciate that feedback, and we'll be sure to take that into consideration and see what we can do there.
And thank you. Next, we'll go to Senator Titus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to ask a question, and I appreciate that and I perceive the purpose of this is to make sure that we're giving our kids the best opportunities possible. None of you would be at the table, I believe, if you didn't care about educating our kids. So thank you for that. I share all of the concerns that my colleague to my left brought up, and I'm not going to reiterate those. She made her point clear. In addition to those concerns, I also have a question regarding the language on Section 6 that I did not see that was mended. And then on Section 6, if you go down then to the last page of the original bill, you go to number 2. And it speaks toward a member of the Board of Trustees shall provide to the clerk a written certification issued by the board, school board governing organization demonstrating, et cetera. Why was that language necessary change? They already had to provide certification to the clerk of the board. And can you clarify why you felt that needed to be changed?
Thank you, Patricia Haddad. So I believe that this change had to do with alignment to the original drafting of this bill, which required a certification required that certification of training be submitted to the county clerk upon filing. We've changed that. We've removed that piece. And so I believe that was aligned. I might look to legal counsel on that, though.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So the reason for that change in subsection 2 is the new language added down in subsections 5 and 6. Under existing law, there's no statement of who has to provide this training or develop or approve this training. The new language in subsections 5 and 6 make this training something that is offered by an entity approved by the Department of Education to provide the training. So the change in subsection 2 conforms to that new addition, that this is training provided by an organization approved by the Department of Education.
Thank you, and follow up on that subject then. So then moving down to 5 and 6. So currently, we are all subject to training regardless of our fields. We as elected officers of the legislative body have to do freshman training, mandatory training. So getting trained for, and any position I've ever held, any executive position after I was elected or appointed, involves here's what you have to do with this job. So I have no problem with that. And the law already existed that they had to have some training on what does it mean to be a school board member. My concern is who currently is doing that training, and what did you have in mind specifically, the agenda, and who provides the training you're now looking at that they mandate and take?
Rick Harris, for the record. It's real similar to what we already do. What we do, our training, the heart of our training is NRS 386, 327. We make sure that gets covered, and then we enhance it, and we have experienced trustees come in and help work with our new trustees on other aspects other than what the law is. More the roles and responsibilities of being a trustee, how to work together, things like that. So we currently already do that in our trainings, but we wanted to make.
And that's, sorry to interrupt you, but that's exactly my point. Do you not already do that in your training? And now you're asking to do that, they have to take a test, or do they have to, so it's been the training.
A little rough because we couldn't meet in person, and online training is as difficult as online school is. But I think the difficulty that we have is not all school board members choose to attend training. We offer it. Districts help defer the costs for that, but not all board members attend. Most do, but not all. Even though they're required to, they don't come necessarily to our training, and where they get their training, they don't. And if they don't, I had a board member several years ago who just didn't complete the training. And there was no real ability to do anything than put it on the website that this one did not complete training.
And I hate to belabor this, one more question. Along that same line, though, we have 17 different school districts, 17 different groups of school board members. Each school district has similar problems, but definitely unique problems. And so mandating where they get that training, I have concerns in that if there's enough allowable training for that individual person in that individual school district, once you funnel them down to what you perceive as the correct training.
Thank you. Patricia Haddad. So a couple of pieces. So one, want to ensure that there are minimum standards for whatever provider of those trainings, for whichever provider of those trainings may exist. And then the idea would be similar to how curriculum or content standards are identified in this state, that there would be a pool of providers that have met this minimum standard, and then boards would adopt their own policy for how to go about selecting which provider they would use, be that NASB or some other one. And so really, the idea is not to force or require any one particular school board to use any one particular type of provider, but rather ensure that whichever that they select is meeting these sort of minimum standards as far as what they are providing within their training.
Next, we go to Senator Doñate, please.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Flores. I think this is a very tough issue that I know many of my colleagues share some level of frustration with just the entire conversation. It's not good for us to see news articles of what's going on. And, our constituents ask us to respond to this. And so, I commend you for at least taking a look at it. I think that's something that's important. But I share the same hesitations that my colleagues from SD4 and SD17 also share. So I do have two questions. In talking about the structure of how our Board of Trustees operate, many of them I communicate to practically pretty often. So first question is, have you talked to all of your Board of Trustees on how they feel about this issue? And can you talk to us about what those conversations have looked like?
Colleagues, I just want to make sure that I'm able to be heard on the other side.
Yeah, we'll go to Las Vegas, please.
Thank you. Evelyn Garcia Morales for the record. Senator Doñate, I can tell you that I appreciate the acknowledgement of the frustration and the pain that that you've seen and witnessed, that we've all seen and witnessed, that I personally have kept me up at night. And it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy. But I can tell you that our board is in a different place. We are committed to moving forward in a positive direction that supports the student outcomes and improving student outcomes and ensure the accountability of our entire school district. So I just want to acknowledge your comments and also share with you kind of where we are and where we're going at least from the perspective of the Clark County School District, since we're bringing this bill. And thank you for allowing us to be part of that conversation. I mean, it is important. My lived experience as a school board trustee is unique and certainly has, I've learned a lot. It's a very humbling experience, but I know that there's room for this role to be better, to improve. And in terms of colleagues, we voted as a board to bring this item. This is one of our BDRs, and we brought this as one of our items that we wanted to address this current legislative session.
Thank you so much, Chair. If I can
Thank
follow
you.
up. And Trustee Morales, the vote count for that proposal was it
I don't have
unanimous?
it at the top of my head, but it passed. I don't know. I'm not.
Was it
I don't
unanimous?
believe it was. I don't believe it was.
Thank you so much. I think that's important for us to clarify for the record. Furthermore, I also have a second question to this. I think for me, I don't have any hesitation with the requirements of trainings. As legislators, we go through similar circumstances. How did you arrive to the requirement of 12 hours? I mean, that's just, if you think about it, that's a day and a half. I think that's important for us to discuss. I personally would like the perspective of having particularly more comprehensive ones, and also continuing education for folks as well. We have recurrent trainings for ourselves as well, and so I think that's important for you guys to consider. But I would like your feedback as to how you arrived to that.
Thank you, Patricia Haddad for the Clark County School District. So in addition to the Clark County School District Board passing, I think regardless of a unanimous vote or not, if you have a majority of folks that are voting on something and it passes through, then, that is the decision. And I think that's how it works here at the legislature as well, if I understand correctly. There have also been discussions with the NASB Legislative Committee, which is representative of trustees across the state. And I think Laurel might be able to better speak to that. So currently, right now, in relation to the training hours, it is currently at 6 hours. There is a recognition that the 6 hours it may not be quite enough, because they're already going beyond that 6 hours and just being able to cover what would be appropriate to cover. The additional 4 hours was specified around this sort of baseline orientation, right? Overview of what is or is not the role of a board of trustees. And so ensuring that there's an additional cushion in there, taking into consideration what is currently required, the actual amount of time it takes, and then this additional component, I believe is how we got to this 12 hours. And I'm not sure if Rick would like to add anything in addition to that.
For the record, Rick Harris, and you're absolutely correct. It isn't enough. What we currently do, we would like to have more time, and 12 hours is a start in the right direction. So that's why right now a lot of our trustees, and Trustee Crossman's a great example, they go beyond it. She's a certified public official along with about 15 other trustees. So we're just hoping to continue that momentum and make it more required and more of what we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just, Chair Flores, if it's okay, I just have one statement to make. The reason why I asked how the structure of the vote was is because obviously there was some level of scrutiny that was represented by the Board of Trustees as to what their requirements are. We would expect the same if we were changing the requirements as to what it takes to be a legislator behind this up here on in the front of this room. And I don't have any, this is just, I'm just personally speaking at this point. I don't have any problem with respect of how the vote went. I think, of course, to you all presenting, that's part of your responsibility. And that was a position, the majority position that the board took. But I think it's important to also understand the sentiments of what the reverse is. And you've heard it from my colleagues that sit here, which is there is a level of restraint. Now, with regards to your training requirements, I think that is a pathway that you can definitely do so. What I truly believe, and this is me on a personal capacity, is the reason if you talk to your trustees, both former trustees and the ones that are serving, they all agree with the same sentiment, which is they have not been equipped with the right resources to do their jobs. And if you pause and you reflect on that, there are some states in this country, Alabama, Florida, etc., where in certain school districts, it is treated like a full-time capacity. You are salaried. You do have staff members. You don't have to rely on the school district to do the work that you have to do to oversee the school district. The school district has grown. It is one of the largest ones of this country. We've had that statistic for a reason. I believe the reason why you're seeing these issues is not because of the requirements that you set forth, but it's because we set them to have these issues. And I think that's part of a greater conversation that I would like reflected in this bill, but I know we only have a limited amount of time, and I think that's worth noting for the future. So thank you so much.
Members, any additional questions? We'll come back to Senator Neal, and then I think we'll wrap it up with that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Flores. So I had another question on the bill. I want to go back to page 4, and it is line 20, sub D, and it's still section 4. So this is where you enumerate crimes, but I thought it was of particular interest for line 20 sub D, because you have a person who has a warrant for his or her arrest. So a decision is being made before guilt or innocence has even been decided. So how do you reconcile that provision? Because there's been no adjudication.
Thank you, Patricia Haddad. I believe that we were marrying this off of existing requirements around background checks, but we will circle back and double check on that one in particular, though I hear you on what you're saying around the lack of adjudication that's been occurred, and so it being outstanding and that may or may not being appropriate.
Thank you for that, because it all ties to the previous elected question, and that it is post-election, and that there are other rights that are now being attributed or manifested after they're elected, when you have that kind of provision there, and then you're denying them a seat or a certification.
All right, thank you, members. And I think we'll stop with the questions there. I think there's just ideological conversations happening, but they're not necessarily questions directed to the bill. And I 100% respect that. The dialogue's been had. So with that, I'd like to invite you to sit back and invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 65, either in Las Vegas or Carson City, to please come forward. I am looking at the screen. I don't see anybody in Las Vegas stepping forward, and I also don't see anybody here in Carson City. So at this time, I'd like to go to the phones. BPS, is there anybody wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 65?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 65, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on Senate Bill 65, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 65 to please come forward, either in Las Vegas or Carson City. We have somebody here, please, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSCA opposes SB 65, adding requirements for service on school boards. We have supported increasing training requirements for school board members, including supporting AB 451 in the 2017 session. However, language in SB 65 creates unnecessary barriers to participation and public service on school boards. While school boards clearly have been targeted and subject to greater scrutiny in recent years, problems related to the service of school board members have not really been any more severe than those seen in many other local government boards or even here in the state legislature, where requirements to hold office are similar to existing requirements for school board members. With that said, NSCA is open to language in the amendment increasing the required amount of training for school board members. It seems like that may be good public policy. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 65? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
To testify in opposition of SB 65, press star 9 and take your place in the queue. Again, to testify in opposition of SB 65, press star 9 and take your place in the queue.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Christine Kiliani speaking as an individual. I'm calling in opposition to SB 65. I was trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to fix. Unfortunately, I've been a little bit more closely involved, and I think it's really a punishment for a former trustee or trustees that was occurring down in southern Nevada. And this is kind of the response. It was written in August with a 4-3 vote by the Board of Trustees. CCSD on a regular basis, almost every meeting has a confidential meeting before the board meetings. I think they're in violation of the open meeting law. And more often than not, it's to be criticizing each other or information that's not required to be confidential. Perhaps you could get rid of the bill and just make sure that the minutes are required to be kept in all confidential meetings and transcribed and available for the public if something comes up. I'm extremely bothered by the censorship language. There's been a violation of 241.036 with regard to meetings of disciplining a fellow trustee. That language came from Assemblyman Price's late wife, his widow, when she was a regent. And that language was put into the legislation 20 plus years ago. Unfortunately, the district gets around it by talking to trustees with one or two people, summon them to a meeting, not a public meeting, and then discuss their behavior or why did you comment that, or you went to a school without our permission and visited with parents. There's a lot of things that have been coming up, and this bill does not fix any of that. I think in the long run, we need to make them professional, pay them $60,000 a year, require training after they're elected, not previous to, including how do you work together as a board. That said, you're not going to fix anything if you have leadership, and the superintendents should be qualified to have the same training as the trustees, in my opinion. I think Senator Neal was correct on that. That said, in the long run, we have to figure out what we're trying to fix. The infighting that goes on is not always not connected to student outcomes. It generally is about personalities or disagreements. This could get out of hand, and I'm concerned because I don't have the amendment language in front of me. It's not online
And
yet.
I'm gonna have to cut you off. I apologize, but we have reached the 2-minute mark. I will ask that if you have additional remarks that you please email them to our committee staff, and we can make sure they get uploaded so that the full breadth of your opposition
Thank
can
you very
be
much for your time.
taken into account. Thank you. With that, we will go to the next caller wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 65.
Good afternoon, Education Commission. Senators, a lot of really great statements today. This is, Anna Binder. Anna Binder, for the record. I got to tell you a couple things after hearing some other statements. One, the trustees do not have access to ethics points. On the Audit Advisory Committee, we barely get a little tiny spreadsheet, and I have had to fight for a discussion about items that are on that little spreadsheet. Trustees do not have access to that database system. And there's so much with this, but someone like me wouldn't be able to afford training prior to, being elected. I don't think that's fair. All of the committees this session have talked about breaking down barriers for people to achieve things. And this is really the most disheartening conversation I've heard about limiting people and whatnot. So also the board has multiple closed sessions, but what they do is they don't make it a quorum. So they just call it, I believe, briefings. But if you go back to, say, mid-2019, when you get some free time, haha, that's a joke, watch a meeting from about mid-year 2019, and then think of all of the recent ones you've watched. Something changed before the pandemic, coming out into the post-COVID. That has completely changed our board. We get no open discussions. We get nothing. What did they do? They took away putting us on video and limiting our speech time. And basically, if you don't agree with the majority of the vote, they villainize you. So there's something happened there in that timeline, but you can see it if you watch just two different ones, through those courses of time. And it should go back to the way that it was in 2019.
And thank you. We are
that's
now
what
at the
Thank
2-minute
you.
mark. I appreciate your testimony. If there's anything else you'd like to get on the record, please make sure you email our committee staff. BPS, and next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 65, please.
Hi, this is Tracy Thomas, Thomas, and I oppose this bill as it is written. I think it's a little overreaching. If it's only applying to one county, it should be, applied at that county level. It doesn't need to be applied at the state level. If you want to make certain conditions for the board in Clark County, then Clark County should be responsible for that, not the whole state. And I have great concerns for this bill, and that it is suppressing people that are willing to step up and serve on these boards. It is hard to find people that are going to do that, and now you are just cutting that resource even down further. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 65.
If you have just joined us and would like to testify in opposition of SB 65, press star 9 and take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers willing to testify at this time.
Thank you. BPS will stay on the phone. Anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position over the phone?
If you would like to testify neutral to SB 65, press star 9 to take your place in the queue now. Again, if you would like to testify neutral to SB 65, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers willing to testify neutral.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, I would ask if you have any closing remarks. Please.
Thank you, Patricia Haddad for the Clark County School District. Just briefly in closing, appreciate everyone's time, appreciate everyone's willingness to engage in this discussion. We think it's really important. We wanted to ensure, as a school district and coming straight down from our Board of Trustees, that we were actively engaged in this conversation about how we can continue to strengthen our boards. And I did just want to quickly reiterate that we did garner the support based on these many revisions from trustees from across the state via the legislative committee and beyond within the Association of School Boards. And then I also did want to clarify that the CCSD Board of Trustees approved their legislative platform and bill draft topics unanimously on August 25th of 2022, and that information can be found on the CCSD website under meetings and agendas. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the work. I'll take this point of privilege to say I understand that we are in a difficult situation, and we have, as a society, I think, often taken additional protections and measures and steps to ensure that we're protecting our kids. And I think that's what's happening here. But there's obviously an ideological split in this conversation, whether or not we agree or don't. And we also believe that if somebody has some horrible criminal convictions and they can't even be around kids and they were to be elected to serve our kids, that'd be difficult for us to reconcile stuff like that. So I understand there's a whole host of hypotheticals that could always exist where this conversation is necessary. So I appreciate your time, and I hope the committee members can continue to work with you and try to find some middle ground, see if it exists. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 65, and we'll jump right into the next bill presentation. We'll open up the hearing on Senate Bill 251, which revises provisions relating to employees of school districts. Please, good afternoon. Welcome whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the committee. I'm delighted to be with you here today. My name is Sue Mateska. I'm an attorney with the Dyer Lawrence Law Firm here in Carson City and representing the Nevada State Education Association and the Education Support Employees Association, which does represent the support employees in Clark County, in the Clark County School District. And thank you, Senator Flores, for sponsoring this bill. SB 251 is addressing an issue that has existed since the reorganization of the Clark County School District in 2017. That issue being the district's responsibility and an authority post this reorganization for the transfer and reassignment of employees who are subject to a surplus or reduction in force situation. As you all know, the reorganization of the Clark County School District was affected by legislative enactment. The school district was not broken up into multiple districts. It was reorganized so that each school was designated a local school precinct, and they were given more autonomy over their budgets and selecting their staff within their budgets. And that was reflected in the reorganization bill, and in particular, the section we're amending as Section 1 in here. But in that same section, the district remained responsible for all other responsibilities that are necessary for the operation of all of those local school precincts and the district as a whole. And the top of that list of those responsibilities that are listed in that section is negotiating terms and conditions of the employees. Negotiation of terms and conditions of employment is long been governed by Chapter 288 of NRS, which requires that certain subjects be bargained for, and the resolution of that bargaining is reduced to a collective bargaining agreement. And one of those items, which is included in all of the collective bargaining agreements that have been negotiated with the district and the employee organizations in Clark County, are articles on dealing with the transfer and reassignment of employees when there is a surplus and/or in a reduction in force situation. These articles are detailed and have multi-step procedures. They've been negotiated over several decades to come to an efficient process for when employees need to be moved around from one school to another, just because of normal things that happen, changing in the overall county population, changing in the concentration of the population over the district. Again, this happens in every school district in the state, but especially in a large school district. So the bill, by amending NRS 388G610, as well as the mandatory subject of bargaining section, NRS 288150, is aiming to specify that although those local school precincts have authority to select their staff, the district does remain responsible for negotiating terms and conditions of employment regarding these transfer and assignment situations and enforcing those provisions of the collective bargaining agreements. Now, as I said, this has been an issue ever since reorganization was accomplished and enacted by the legislature in 2017. And those differences of opinion have resulted in some legal matters. There was a matter that was presented to the Employee Relations Management Board, and that resulted in a declaratory order that found that these provisions could be interpreted harmoniously with each other, that the CCSD reorganization did not strip employees of their rights under the collective bargaining agreements. But then we did also have a district court action that was brought, and this was a writ petition attempting to prevent the district from enforcing these collective bargaining agreements regarding transfers and reassignments. The district court also agreed that these sections could be interpreted harmoniously and that the reorganization did not strip employee rights. So thus far, they've been consistent with what we're aiming to do in this bill. The writ petition district court matter has been appealed and to the Nevada Supreme Court, and that matter is still pending an order. But we submit to you that the reorganization of the Clark County School District was created by legislative enactment, and that it should continue to be operated by laws that are duly considered and enacted by the legislature. And that's why we're bringing this bill before you, so that the legislature can declare its intent for this.
And thank you for that presentation. At this time, we'll move on to questions. We'll start off with Senator Titus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you for that. Just one statement that you made caught my interest, and you say there's a Supreme Court case pending now? And if so, what in this legislation would have impact on that?
Thank you, Senator Titus. Chair Flores, this is Sue Matuska for the record. Yes, there is the appeal on the writ petition is pending. Enactment of this bill would render, I think would effectively render the substantive decision moot. There will certainly be orders and holdings that the court makes regarding procedure on the writ petition and other matters, but this would be the I guess I will back up 1 second and say both of those matters, the EMRB matter, the one that started in the district court and is now at the Supreme Court, they're not about determining money damages. They're all about determining legislative intent. And we're here to ask for you to tell us the legislative intent and for you to enact the laws that govern how the district operates.
Thank you for that. In other words, you want clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
And next, we'll go to Senator Buck, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair Flores. How many employees have lost their jobs based on this?
Do you mean how many are subject to this transfer and reassignment situation?
No, have actually lost their job.
I don't have those
I'm
statistics.
sorry to interrupt. I just want to remind you to please identify.
Thank you, Chair Flores. This is Sue Matuska for the record. Senator Buck, thank you for the question. I'm not familiar with the statistics on that.
Well, I did some research before this hearing, and no one has lost their job due to this. And so making sure that people have their job, but how also is this helping children? How is this helping children, this bill? How is it protecting children? That's what we're all about. How is this protecting children? I have to excuse myself because I sat in that principal role and I wanted autonomy over who was going to be working on my campus. And so how is this protecting children?
Senator Buck, this is Sue Matuska for the record. Thank you, Chair. What we're here asking the committee for is to declare the legislative intent on this section and how it correlates to collective bargaining. I would say that the efficient operation of a school district is, at the end of the day, the best operation. And those collectively bargained for provisions are all about creating that structured process. Staffing is an important side of the running of a school district. I hope that answers.
And next, we'll go to Senator Neal, please.
Thank you. So I got an email from one of the schools in my district, and one of the concerns that was brought up is similar to what Senator Buck is kind of touching on. They had control over who was coming to their school, and they could pick the kind of teacher for their population, right? because not all teachers fit certain student populations. And so what was brought up to me, they stated it took them a long time to build their team. It took them a long time to build the cohesion and then get the gains that they have achieved. Because prior to that, the district would just send them whoever, and they didn't have power over who they received at their school. And they don't want to have to return back to that. And so that autonomy that they have gained by selecting teachers at an at-risk school is very, very important to them, because it is a certain kind of teacher that needs to be there in order to serve their population. And I distinctly remember when we had this conversation about passing the trash, and this was superintendents that were coming to the table in like 2017, 2015. I was on the reorg committee for like 2 years. And so I want you to address that, because there's a fear that they're going to lose some people that they have. And you know how important it is to have a strong team at a school site.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Chair Flores, this is Sue Matuska for the record. So as stated, when the legislature created the reorganization of the district, they did have to do this balance. You see that right there in this section 1. The local school precincts are given that initial authority to select their staff. Selection of staff is a management right. That's not something that's bargained for between districts and employee organizations. But the other side of the balance was that it's still one district. It wasn't broken up into multiple districts. And so there was some balancing of that power, and you need to have a structure for dealing with the fact that these adjustments do happen from time to time. And these employees didn't become at-will employees just because the Clark County School District was reorganized. So a certain amount of transfer reassignment authority is really an integral component of the operation of a school district, and once again, particularly in one the size of Clark County.
So, and I appreciate that statement being made. And I think there is, when we talk about the decision-making and the ability to transfer staff, I think there's a concern. And I don't know, I think there's a concern about the current administration that's in place and the power and the control that they're seeking over, I think, what people feel may not be in their best interest, right? And I'm just going to say, like, what I hear in the rumor mill, right? Because what I've heard more than anything is that the tool can be used to punish. The tool can be used for, can be beneficial for students, but it can also be used in a way where it's hurting the principal, right? And the principal wants to maintain certain staff. And so I don't see anything in here on the back of the bill on page 8 where it says what surplus situations mean. Any kind of like guardrails around what someone can identify as, this broad use of language. And I think what worries me the most is that when a challenge came up under AB 469 in the interim and we were not in session, and there was what I felt was an illegal interpretation of what 469 was, and then the district went and did whatever they wanted to do, and then the state board intervened. We were at an absence and at a loss because the district had interpreted language widely for their own benefit that wasn't true, that wasn't accurate. And that's what bothers me about this language in this bill, right? I just kind of want it to be a little bit more tightened, because when I saw that behavior of a wide interpretation based on what they wanted to control and what they wanted to do, it caused a problem. It caused a problem across, Clark County. And I don't want that to happen with this bill, right? I've gotten a lot of emails from principals in my district that I have a close relationship with who hate this bill, flat out. And they're fearful of what it means. And so either we figure out how to give them some kind of protection in the language where there's at least a point for the principal to have some kind of say if their teams start to get broken up on their campuses.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Chair Flores, this is Sue Mataska for the record. The language that we've added to NRS 388G.610 is clarifying the negotiation of other terms and conditions of employment to include transfer and reassignment of employees. Transfer and reassignment of employees is a subject that's been bargained with the employee unions of the district. As I said, I believe for many decades. It's not a brand new thing that's ill understood at this point. The definition of surplus situation is pretty targeted, I would say, to the specific situations of population and academic needs. So I'm not sure if I'm going to quite zero in on your concern, but I would say that it's dealing with a known commodity, and it's clarifying the district's role here so that we can get some clarity between those the local school precincts and then the district as a whole, because once again, it does still need to operate as one school district.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. If I could invite you to sit back. And at this time, I'm going to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 251 to please come forward either in Las Vegas or Carson City. We'll start with Carson City, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for 120 years. We are in support of SB 251 to ensure clarity and fairness in the employee surplus process in the Clark County School District. As negotiated between CCSD and the Education Support Employees Association, the reassignment process related to surplus situations or reduction of force allows the district to determine appropriate staffing levels and make adjustments while providing a fair process for impacted employees. ESPs with the lowest seniority in their position go through this process when schools can no longer afford or no longer need that position. This process has nothing to do with their individual job performance. Before the passage of AB 469, this had been the practice in the Clark County School District for decades. In the fall of 2020, and this might speak to Senator Buck's question, CCSD began requiring ESPs to interview with school principals as a part of the surplus process, impacting about 50 education support professionals. Several were rejected for a lateral position through no fault of their own at an individual principal's discretion. This created an untenable situation for those particular workers who were still technically employed by the district, but without a position. During this new process, some questions of racial bias were raised. ESPs are the lowest paid employees in the Clark County School District, and more so than many other job classes, reflect the diversity of the school communities that they serve. But a decision, as Sue Mataska discussed by the EMRB, halted that process. SB 251 is the pro-union way to settle the disagreement related to the employee surplus process, honoring collective bargaining between two parties who've come to agreement. It's also about fairness, providing policies for transfer and reassignment of all school district employees as a mandatory subject of bargaining, which is language which currently only applies to teachers. Thank you very much.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, please. Question, please.
Since I got called out, thank you, Chair Flores. So I guess I'm going to ask you the same question. How many people lost their job, or did they actually end up placing everyone into a position?
Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, through the chair to Senator Buck. Thank you for the question. I think that the answer, as you know, is zero, because as I said, a decision by the EMRB halted the process.
So you think?
And so we are now pending hearing from the Supreme Court because the legislature over the course of, the last, the intervening sessions hasn't spoken to what their intent is. There's a disagreement between parties about what we think the legislative intent was in 2017. You have the opportunity to declare, to clarify this so that the Supreme Court doesn't have to guess what the intent was in 2017. And if that's the case, and this bill passes, we go back to the decades-long practice of the transfer and reassignment process in surplus or reduction in force situations, and it works. It's not the most pleasant process. I've heard from education support professionals that have to go through it, like you have to, you're leaving your school and you got to go into, the big auditorium and see what jobs are open that you qualify for, and kind of this lateral process, and figure out, what's close to where you live and that sort of thing. It's not the greatest process, but it's the best process that we've developed through collective bargaining. Alternately, if the legislature doesn't declare their intent and the Supreme Court rules on the side of the administrators, then we do believe that many people will lose their jobs.
So you think that it's sort of like a marriage, because you think that just placing these people in a school is going to be just wonderful for the school, for the kids, for that staff member? Because I think if principals have a say, as well as the person coming in for the job, and there's a mutual agreement on expectations at the school site, and that that there can be a win-win. As proven, nobody's lost a job. Everybody has a job.
Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, through the chair to Senator Buck. Thank you for the question. It's hard to say, right? Like at NSEA and then with our local affiliate ESEA, we represent education support professionals within the school district. We do have members who are teachers in the school district, although we are not the recognized, bargaining unit there. That's CCEA. I think for our members who have gone through or have to go through the surplus process, keep in mind these are workers in good standing. Mm-hmm. So, take a paraprofessional or a food service worker who does their job. All of a sudden, a school needs one fewer of that class. They have the least seniority. They have to go through this process. They have to go through another school. But this is a worker who, goes to work, does their job, doesn't have anything, on, their record in terms of write-ups or anything like that. Dutifully working. Is it ideal that they get transferred or reassigned? No, it would be best if they could stay at the school site they are, but the district needs that flexibility in order to do their staffing, right? So our perspective is, there probably isn't a perfect solution to this, but the one that's been negotiated between the, between the employer and, the bargaining unit, and has been developed over decades, we believe is the best of several possible imperfect solutions to the problem.
And thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker in support of Senate Bill 251, please.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Randy Saltero, today representing the Education Support Employees Association in the Clark County School District. We're here in support of SB 251 for the reasons that were discussed here by NSCA and through the questions that were asked through the committee. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 251, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, BPS, is anybody wishing to join us on the phone in support of Senate Bill 251?
To testify in support of SB 251, press star 9 to take your place in the queue now. Again, to testify in support of SB 251, press star 9 to take your place in the queue now.
Erica Negri for the record, a support staff employee. I am in support of this bill. Not passing this bill affects the lowest paid employees who, through no fault of their own, have been reassigned to different positions. I want to believe that AB 469 was not an attempt to hurt the most underpaid employees. Not passing this bill will hurt the students we serve because employees leave the school district entirely in a time where we are in dire straits for employees. The reason you will not have data on how many people have lost their jobs is because they leave the district. So when they leave the district, it's not going to say that they were fired or let go. And I don't think the board understands the reassignment. I don't think what this bill is. The reason why these people are reassigned, support staff or teachers or educators, is because those programs have left the school that they are serving. I was one of them my first year working here. I have good observations, good evaluations. It's not the worst employees. I urge you to pass this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. BPS, next caller in support of Senate Bill 251.
Hi, Anna Binder for the record. I was listening in, and I support this bill and the presenters there. I have a lot of respect for, so I understood the discussion, and I also don't believe AB 469 had any ill intent, and I would love to have more conversations about that. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 251.
If you have just joined us and would like to testify in support of SB 251, press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Jan Giles for the record, and I am the president of the Education Support Employees Association, which we represent 13,000 support professionals in CCSD. We are in support of this new language in SB 251. Since the implementation of AB 469 and NRS 388, there has been ambiguities on the transfer and assignment process for employees in CCSD. This will bring much needed clarity on CCSD's authority to follow collective bargaining agreements. In the minutes from the July 1st, 2016 community meetings with the AB 469 Advisory Committee, Senator Roberson stated, collective bargaining agreements will not be affected by this and will still be handled by the central offices. As previously stated by Chris Daly, these employees were displaced through no fault of their own. It's based on student enrollment. The district is having a hard enough time getting employees to work for them due to low wages, and seniority is the only benefit in the collective bargaining agreement that keeps employees employed at CCSD. So this language is very much needed, and we would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 251.
A moment, Chair.
Excuse me. Good afternoon. My name is Terry Schumann, and I am in favor of SB 251. Surplus is
I'm sorry to
devastating
interrupt
and
you.
demoralizing to our support staff.
Sorry to interrupt you. If I could just have you spell your name for the record, please. We'll restart your time.
T-E-R-R-I-S-H-U-M-A-N.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Schumann, and I am in favor of SB 251. Surplus is devastating and demoralizing to our support staff. I know, as I've been through many. I started in 2008 all the way up until 2017. I either lost my position due to elimination or just not being able to carry out the position. So I am asking today that we have the right, or we need to go back to the contract and go by what it says, that we have the right to choose our positions. To be put into a position that you don't know anything about and then be eliminated from it because you're not doing it correctly is not right. It's not fair to our support staff. We are in such short supply of our support staff. We need everyone that we can get. All support staff, no matter if they are in ESEA, whether they are not a member, or even if they are in the Teamsters, all support staff need to be treated with respect. And by having our principals pick and choose whether they want us or not, that is not giving us respect. It's showing who's on top. And we know that our principals, and we respect our principals and administrators, but they need to respect us as well. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 251.
Chair, there are no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you, BPS. We'll stay on the phone. Please, those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 251.
To testify in opposition of SB 251, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Again, to testify in opposition of SB 251, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers willing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition in Carson City or Las Vegas to please come forward. I see some folk in Las Vegas. Just know that we're going to start here in Carson City, and then I will move to Las Vegas. Whoever wishes to go first, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Jeff Horn, and I'm the Executive Director of the Clark County Association of School Administrators and Professional Technical Employees. I represent over 1,450 CCSD administrators, of which nearly 98% are members. CASAPI is opposed to SB 251. As a former high school principal in CCSD, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who admires teachers and support professionals more than I. Teachers and support professionals are overworked and underpaid. They are in the trenches every day, powering through endless red tape, testing demands, and overcrowded classrooms. They are the heroes to over 300,000 CCSD students. They teach lessons that last a lifetime. The vast majority of the approximately 30,000 teachers and support professionals are dedicated, amazing educators. However, as true for any large group, there is always a small number who are ineffective. This small number, usually less than a handful, has the potential to negatively impact hundreds, if not thousands of students. Due to the critical labor shortage, there are hundreds of open positions in CCSD, yet a handful of individuals find it difficult to secure a position from overwhelmed principals who are desperate to hire, train, and retain energetic, smart, effective educators. How bad does an employee have to be who can't be hired by a principal with dozens of openings? SB 251 represents everything that is wrong in education. I am hopeful to hear that some lawmakers are working on bills that will positively impact education by developing a pipeline supporting the process to grow promising, hopeful educators. CASAPI is looking forward to supporting this process, which is the opposite of tearing down AB 469, which has never been given the opportunity to be fully implemented. I thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman Flores. For the record, Danny Thompson, representing the Clark County School Administrators Union. I'd just like to make a point here. You know, I have been in this building for 43 consecutive years. And in that time, the legislature stayed away from issues that were before the Supreme Court. The issue before you today is not only before the court has heard this issue, and we're waiting for a ruling. I would tell you that in the last 3 years that this issue has been there, we have spent over $200,000 to put that there. And by passing this bill, you would be settling that lawsuit. At that point, you're not a legislator anymore, you're a judge. And the reason that the legislature doesn't involve themselves in those things is that, the reasons are obvious, because people will have issues before the court. And in the years I've been here, I can think of some real tough ones that people came to the legislature and said, hey, I want you to pass a law to fix this for me, because there was so much money. And as far as, the things that are mentioned here that were changed, the legislature, in its wisdom, passed this bill that gave the principals the right to have some authority and some say over who was chosen, and for the very reason that Senator Neal talked about, that they have some say in who ends up working at their school to make sure they're a right fit and for the team at that school. And so for those reasons, I would urge you to not consider this bill, because at the time when the bill was passed originally, all of those things that were talked about here today, mandatory scope of bargaining, all of those things were the law. You all considered all that, and yet you passed the bill anyway. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Keith, DYLAN-KEITH, with the Vegas Chamber. As you know, the Chamber is engaged on education bills because we want students to succeed. And we believe that it is imperative that our education system is focused on student achievement. We believe that this bill does the exact opposite. The Vegas Chamber is opposed to this bill as it removes accountability for employees. This bill removes the ability for principals to grow a staff that is qualified for their students, and the Chamber believes that this legislation is a disservice to those students. We believe it's imperative for Nevada school employees to be qualified and to give our students the best possibility to learn and succeed. Thank you, Chair and members, for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Seeing no one else here in Carson City, we will go to Las Vegas. Whoever wishes to go first.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Atlas. I'm with the Griffin Company, here today on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Administrators. NASA opposes SB 251 because it is not in the best interest of Nevada's children, as it takes away a principal's authority to select staff that directly impacts student success. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Please. Gentleman in the blue,
Thank
please.
you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Oh, that's fine.
For the record, my name is Ed Gonzalez. I am a community member on the Hickey Elementary School organizational team and president of CARES for CCSD, a newly formed nonpartisan public education advocacy group that supports a reorganization. The reason we stand in opposition to this is that this doesn't clarify the issue. It undoes a carefully crafted compromise where employee unions and the CCSD superintendent agreed to give up powers to the local school precinct and the school organizational team that prevents any staff from being placed at a school. What it did is that the superintendent doesn't get to select the principal. The school organizational team and the community gets to interview those candidates and pick who they would like and recommend to the superintendent who they want. The principals don't get placed in schools. And because of that, educators and support staff are interviewed by school administrators and selected because what is based on the needs of the school and also what fits the community as well. But I also want to highlight a couple other things. When we talk about clarity, the State Board of Education for 2 years passed regulations that are approved by the Legislative Commission in September that brought more clarity to this situation. Because when we talk about the EMRB board, they only can look by law at 288 and not 388G. That's why the attorney opinion that looked at both was important, because they felt like the principals had authority to select staff. Moreover, we talk about there was a racial and age bias that was brought in. The Department of Education looked at that and found no evidence of that whatsoever. And then finally, Mr. Vice Chair, when we talk about how many people this affected through the surplus process, NSCA said it affected 50 support staff. It also affected only 12 educators out of tens of thousands of employees. And so this drastically changes the law and undoes a major part of the reorganization to affect a very small amount of people. And I just want to highlight one more thing, if I'm under my 2 minutes, is that the principals have changed their collective bargaining agreement, but CCA and
Unfortunately,
ESA
we
did
just hit
not.
the
Thank you.
2-minute mark. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Daly, and I am currently a member of two SOT teams, a middle school and a high school, a school organization team. I'm also a member of our Community Education Advisory Board, and our Community Education Advisory Board heavily participated in crafting the reorg law. We were to every meeting. I remember seeing Senator Neal there, and it was, we also had Michael Strambinski, who, and maybe some of you are not familiar, he was a world-renowned educational consultant that the state legislature hired to help craft this law. He was so successful in his school district that he developed that charter schools within his district wanted to dissolve their charter to assimilate into the district. He understood how to educate children, and he helped the legislature craft the reorg law to do that. And one of the things we had as a Community Education Advisory Board to that reorg law, as we helped and attended that, we got the opportunity to sit with Mr. Strambinski on several occasions and listen to his concerns and feelings. And one of the things he was very committed to was accountability must be tied to control. Let me repeat that. Accountability must be tied to control. And he understood that and that intent was made clear, and it was voted for. And I think it's really critical that the principal has that ability, because he knows what the individual needs of the schools are with the input of the school organization team. And SB 251 would interfere with that principal's ability to accomplish this. The central office does not know what the school specific needs are. And that's why I oppose this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 251? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone? Opposition to Senate Bill 251. I'm sorry, we had
Testify in opposition to SB.
BPS, I apologize for interrupting you. I forgot that I had already requested for testimony over the phone in opposition to Senate Bill 251. Do we have anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position to Senate Bill 251? BPS, please.
To testify neutral to SB 251, press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and Committee on Education. For the record, my name is Tammy Villarreal, and I am the principal at Doris French Elementary in Clark County School District. I am here as an individual and not a representative of CCSD. I would like to speak in opposition to SB 251 and the proposed change that would remove autonomy from principals in selecting teachers for their campus. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please continue.
Thank you. As it does not do what is best for children. I've been an administrator for 17 years. In that time, I have received teachers from surplus that were of a diverse range. I've had the opportunity to have received strong teachers that get results from their students and an asset to our school culture and campus. On the other hand, I've also had the unfortunate opportunity to receive teachers that have poor evaluations, disciplines, and did not have the skills needed to help students reach proficiency on state standards. These teachers hurt children by not allowing them to grow academically on grade level standards and create gaps that could negatively impact at least 2 additional grade levels. We are also held accountable for all student growth and proficiency through the STAR rating process, A lack of autonomy in selecting our teams leaves us with accountability for staff we did not select. There is also the struggle of teachers that do not fit into the school culture. They may have the pedagogy or cultural experiences that align with the current campus culture. This creates a struggle for the teacher and for students and families. Allowing administrators and their teams the autonomy to determine the best candidate for their campus permits the school community to put the student and their needs first. Autonomy to select our candidates strengthens the school culture, promotes student proficiency, supports student social and emotional well-being, and allows each individual school to create a team to support their school performance plan, vision, and mission. Thank you.
And Principal Villarreal, thank you. I also received your email, so I wanted to say that I appreciate you having reached out to me. Thank you for that. BPS, do we have anybody else wishing to join us now in the neutral position for Senate Bill 251?
To testify neutral to SB 251, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers willing to testify neutral at this time.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none. I'm sorry. I apologize. My glasses, I need to fix them. Please continue.
Thank you. I usually see you before the Government Affairs Committee. Chair Flores and members of the Senate Committee on Education, my name is Bruce Snyder. I am the Commissioner of the Government Employee Management Relations Board, which regulates labor relations between Nevada's governments and the employee organizations that represent their employees. I offer these comments in the neutral position, and I'm solely here to recite the history of how we got here today. In calendar year 2020, the Clark County Education Association filed an unfair labor practice complaint with our board. Subsequent filings included a counter-petition for declaratory order filed by the Clark County School District, as well as motions to intervene filed by two other employee organizations, ESEA and the School Administrators Association. All four parties to the case agreed that the EMRB should first rule on the counter-petition, which asked for guidance from the board on how, if at all, one could harmonize the duty to negotiate under NRS 288 and the provisions of the school code creating school precincts in Clark County. The board issued an 11-page order on the petition for declaratory order in December 2020, stating it could only speak on NRS 288 as it had no jurisdiction at all to rule on other NRS chapters. However, the board's order stated that NRS 288 provides for mandatory subjects of bargaining and that NRS 388G 610 and NRS 288-150, which contains the mandatory subjects of bargaining, are not in conflict, and that the statutes can be interpreted to render a harmonious result without infringing on the mandatory subjects of bargaining. The board then stayed the case as it understood that the parties were going to take that declaratory order of the board to court. So it's been stayed since that time. While it stayed, the parties under board order are required.
And while I very much appreciate the information, unfortunately, we've hit the 2 minutes. I would ask if you could please provide your written testimony to our committee members, or better said, our committee staff, and I'll ensure that it goes to all the members. The information you're providing is obviously very important, but just for the sake of transparency and fairness, I am cutting you off at 2 minutes. Thank you for joining us today, but please do submit those to our committee staff, and I'll make sure everybody gets them. Anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position in Las Vegas? Seeing none, any closing remarks we may have?
Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the committee. Sue Mateska, for the record. Thank you again for the opportunity to present SB 251. I just wanted to say, in response to the assertions that this will allow unqualified employees to be thrust upon or forced upon principals, the surplus reassignment process is only for employees who are in good standing. There is a thorough evaluation and disciplinary process that is available to administrators, and the administrators, and the administrators are the ones that are responsible for administering that and making sure that the unqualified employees would not be a part of this. In closing, I just want to point out that AB 469, as we all have been saying, was a legislative enactment, but apparently it wasn't perfect. It happens, right? When we craft laws, they're not always perfect. There's clearly an ambiguity because it's been 5 years and we've got these multiple proceedings. It's going to get resolved at some point. But we submit to you that as much as you would not want to be judges, you probably don't want the courts being legislators. We think this is the appropriate body to make the determination on this. And last thing I would point out is the change that we're making in here in SB 251 to NRS 288150. That is not a part of the Supreme Court proceeding at all. Again, we urge your support for this bill, which will clear up an ambiguity that has been persisting, and we ask you to resolve it by enacting SB 251. Thank you.
And thank you again for your presentation. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 251. And as you know, today is Latino Lobby Day, and we have some phenomenal human beings who I both consider experts, friends, mentors of mine, and I asked them to please join us today to provide a presentation that will help provide some understanding to some of the difficulties, limitations, issues, and positive things that are happening, particularly when we talk about language access in our schools. And I hope that we can have a meaningful conversation around that. And I think it's appropriate today on Latino Lobby Day to engage in that combo. So with that, I believe we have we have a whole host of individuals who are going to be participating in this conversation. We're going to go to Las Vegas. I apologize, I can't see who's sitting there, but whoever wishes to start, welcome.
Thank you, Vice Chair Flores and Senate Committee on Education members. It is my pleasure to be with you. Dr. Tammy Malich, Director of Youth Development and Social Initiatives for the City of Las Vegas, and my co-presenter, Lorna James Cervantes. She will introduce herself during her slides. We are here today to talk to you about and share some results for Strong Start Academy Elementary School at the Tony Hsieh Education Center. We appreciate this opportunity. The City of Las Vegas is intimately involved in this process for a couple of reasons. In 2015, our mayor and city council created a department, the Department of Youth Development and Social Initiatives, that really would focus on providing a range of supports and services to ensure that all community members receive a strong start in life. Our department, YDSI, as we refer to it, delivers a range of programs that strengthen the community and enhance education. We do that for Clark County School District schools. We do that for charter schools and now and early education opportunities. We brand with strong in our titles, so our really focused area is on strong start, strong schools, strong future, and strong communities. The department that I have the honor to oversee supports youth development, workforce development, community connections, and innovation. We do that through a wide range of programming. We're focusing on the education initiatives. With our Strong Start, we support preschool programming for our early learners, both directly by providing preschool services as well as through a Head Start provider, Acelero Learning. They do early Head Start and Head Start programming in city facilities so that we can impact our youngest learners. Why? Why would we get involved in education? A couple of reasons. The city sees the impact of education on economic development, both in encouraging economic development growth through bringing new business and industry, as well as creating a healthy future workforce by having an impact. Secondly, through a partnership with Applied Analysis, our city satisfaction survey yielded that only 24% of our community members felt satisfied with the public schools compared to 54% in the U.S. Only 31% of our 3 and 4-year-olds in Clark County are enrolled in formal preschool, and we believe fundamentally that can be a changer and transformation for our youngest kiddos. 1 in 3 kindergartners don't have language skills to learn how to read, and 69% of our Las Vegas elementary schools are 3-star or below currently. 52% of our students in Las Vegas are eligible for free and reduced lunch, and some of our targeted schools have as much as 100% free and reduced lunch. 40% of our students in our targeted zip codes are identified as emergent bilinguals. With that, our city council and mayor made a decision and voted and made the determination that we would support charter school work within the city. We purchased the Tony Shea Education Center, which it was previously the 9th and Bridger building. And with that, we did so after we received approval from the SBCSA, the State Public Charter Authority, to engage in this work. We support the school financially. The city council approved up to $6 million initially. We do monthly transfers to the school based on an expenditure reporting that we receive from their financial officer. We also are working currently on several projects to expand the school to full capacity. Our charter runs from 2022 through 2028. And then finally, our city council members and select council members and mayor approve or recommend, and then through our approval process through our city council, all of the board members that operate or oversee the operations of the school.
Thank you. I'm Lorna James Cervantes. I am currently the board president of Strong Start Academy Elementary School, and formerly I was the chair of the English Mastery Council for the state of Nevada and retired recently after 30 years as an administrator and associate superintendent in the Clark County School District. Why do we need to support strong pre-Ks? Because 90% of child's brain development happens by the age of 5. And remember that with every $1 invested in early education, society receives a return of up to $17. Post-COVID, it's very important, and even more so than before, to invest in early childhood education, which is pre-K through 2nd grade. We've seen widening student achievement gaps, dropping graduation rates, and rising remediation rates. We also would recommend that we abandon single weight funding and go to stacked funding through the Nevada weighted funding formula. Early childhood education in Nevada, there are 39,241 4-year-olds approximately in the state of Nevada, but only 8,202 seats currently funded through state or federal funding in the state of Nevada for pre-K. And research reminds us that it's important to encourage children's home language and work with an asset orientation when engaging in education. Also, high-quality child interaction is important, as is the development of language and vocabulary in the school. There's a potential gap of 600 words among 3-year-olds entering school from different family backgrounds, and that rate only increases exponentially the older a child enters formal education. Also, additive bilingual programs such as a 2-way dual immersion program have stronger positive impacts on learners than any other bilingual program. This was proved in a longitudinal study by Collier and Thomas. All of that research around language acquisition is connected to the vision of Strong Start Academy Elementary School, which is to provide a culturally diverse learning community that prepares children to excel academically in 2 languages and have a positive impact on society. Our mission is to provide equitable, high-quality academics as we prepare bilingual students and engage students in dual language education that embraces their home languages and cultures. Our goals are to build bilingualism and biliteracy in all students, ensure students are on or above grade level, and promote positive cross-cultural attitudes and behaviors. Strong Start Academy is a two-way dual language 50-50 model where two languages are used for instruction, English and Spanish. Two groups of students are involved, native English speakers and students who speak another language, Spanish as their native language, and where simultaneous biliteracy development is happening with language division by time and subject. Students engage in education where teachers introduce new themes and concepts in English, revisit those in Spanish, and develop academic vocabulary in both languages through thematic units. Teachers establish the same classroom routines in order to make learning accessible to all students and provide learning in the same units and themes at the same time, but do not repeat any of the learning. We have engaged ed reports to provide high-quality curriculum for the teachers, have engaged in staff recruitment, including higher starting salaries, encouraging teachers with bilingual endorsements to teach at the school, and also ensuring that teachers have a passion for teaching bilingual in education. We've provided multiple opportunities for professional development opportunities for the teachers throughout the year, with an emphasis on Project GLAD, or Guided Language Acquisition Design, as the emphasis for this year's instruction. Monthly family engagement events in both English and Spanish are provided, and parents and teacher conferences are held 3 times throughout the year. You'll see in the next few slides that we have had very strong growth with students at only the mid-year term of the first year in service. You see this through the iReady reading and math reports, as well as map reading data. In conclusion, we would recommend that we abandon single-weighted funding to equitably fund education of each student group, invest in high-quality pre-K education, and learn from the lessons of Zoom schools, expand high-quality dual language programs across the state of Nevada, and incorporate the recommendations of the English Mastery Council for the state of Nevada. Thank you so much for your time today.
And thank you. With that, we do have a question for you, and thank you for this presentation. Senator Doñate, please.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Flores. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Ms. Cervantes. She used to be my vice principal, and it's a great moment to see your presence. I wish you were here in person, but I just want to thank you.
Senator, can you share when she was, or what school?
Elementary school, Crestwood Elementary School.
Elementary school, which was what, like 2-3 years ago?
Close enough.
Close enough, Senator?
Close to it. But I think her work shows, when we talk about educators in the community, her name always comes up, and it's she is a beacon for a lot of us to look up to, especially in this realm. But I do have a question. Can you expand on, so in terms of the recommendations, the abandonment of single-weighted funding, can you explain rationale for that and what would be an intended outcome that you would like to see?
This is Lorna James Cervantes for the record, and yes, I can. What we're talking about here is stacking the weighted funding formula. Right now, schools are held accountable for students in multiple areas for their achievement. So one child could be represented as an EL student in the free reduced lunch category, as well as special education or another student group. But schools only receive funding for those additional necessary educational costs in one area. Granted, it is generally the highest area, but it's still only one of those areas in which the student gains services from the school. One thing we've seen in the last legislative session when we did what we needed to, I won't say the age, but I can say that the old funding was as old as I am. The old funding formula, so it needed to be changed. But what we did is took all the money from categorical funding across the state that supported specifically these groups of students and did it in a very specific way through Zoom, through SB 178, or through Victory funding, and we spread that funding across all of the schools and all of the state in order to fund the weighted funding formula, which I believe is very necessary. Our recommendation would be that we add some of the additional money that the governor recommended for education to support stacking funding for students in each of the categories in which they would be held, schools would be held accountable.
And thank you for that. I think in the interest of time, and we are really limited on time, I think we'll roll immediately into the other presentations, just for the purpose of allowing, I know folk have devoted a lot of time to put them together, so please, we'll roll right into the next presentation.
Dr. Shelley Cruz Crawford for the record. Thank you, Chair Flores and the Education Committee. I am so happy to be here on Latino Lobby Day. I wear several hats here, and the purpose of these panels today are to really show you what we're doing in communities, in what we are doing in the classroom, what we are doing at the system level, university system level, and how we're creating these pipelines that affect our Latino students. That being said, I am a principal of a school about a mile away from here, a school that services students that look like me and has experiences like me. In addition to that, I'm the first Latino administrator at that school. I'm also the first Latino Board of Regent, and I'm the only Latino serving officer serving in headquarters in the Nevada National Guard. So I have a lot of experiences in spaces like this. And what I wanted to share today is, from a couple of my hats that I wear, is I run one of the only CCSD dual language elementary school within the district. So the only dual language school. When I first came to my school about 8 years ago, I noticed that by the time our students were in 4th grade, they did not speak the same language as their parents. How can that be? Because they had acquired so much academic language in English and had lost so much of their Spanish language. The goal of our dual language program is really to create a strong workforce so that our students can speak both Spanish and English. Also, within preparation of that, when I came to my school about 8 years ago, I noticed that our students, our population of teachers and staff did not match the demographic of our students. And that was jarring to me because we know that students that have a teacher that looks like them at least once by the time they're in 3rd grade are 13% more likely to graduate high school and 19% more likely to enroll in a college program. So I set forth to do research across the state to identify barriers to licensure for paraprofessionals, and we've created some of those programming. There's no CCSD didn't just select my school to be a dual language school. It was really the only option. Because of my work with paraprofessional to licensure, every single grade level has teachers that speak their language. I have Spanish speaker teachers in every single grade level. And so I hope to take this day for Latino Lobby Day for you to understand the problems and the way we are fixing them. You're going to be hearing 2 education pipeline bills coming up soon, one from Assemblywoman Torres about removing some of those barriers, and then also another one that's just in BDR format right now for creating teaching and learning programs in every single school within the state so that we can start better building these pipelines, because if we work at building those pipelines K-12, we will have a better chance at filling the state demographics where students are the teacher demographics are representative of student demographics. Thank you so much. And now we're going to go into a couple of our teachers here.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Edgar Flores, Assembly representatives, and members of the Education Committee. I am Gregorio Torres Jr., a Filipino teacher from Global Community High School, and I am a living testimony of what education can do for us. It leads us to a better path, to a better future. And for me, it starts right now to speak in front of you, in front of everyone who actually are willing to listen to my journey in becoming a J1 teacher here in the state of Nevada. I grew up in a slum area somewhere in the Philippines, and I've witnessed at an early age on how it was like growing up, seeing all the scarcity around me because we only had little of everything. And in spite of this, I remember clearly until now that the only thing abundant during that time was that hope in my heart that I am holding until now. A flicker of hope that was given to me by a person who I considered that time as my second parent, with the name of Mrs. Vargas, my elementary teacher. Without her telling me that even poor people do dream as well, I believe that I won't be here in front of you right now. If she is just in front of us, she would be proud, because I hold on to that dream to improve my family's quality of life. Last August, I arrived here in Las Vegas under the J1 visa program, and I believe that education knows no boundaries. My global community high school family is very welcoming to a foreign teacher like me. Thank you, Ms. Fabunan, my former principal, for giving me the chance to impart my knowledge to our students. In my 7 months of teaching in my school, I begin to see from my students that we were actually the same. We came from poor families, and that the only means to improve the quality of life is to finish school, find a job, and help the family. I will keep on saying to my students and never get tired in telling them that yes, we may be poor, but poor people do hope and dream as well. And someday, you will become that person you dreamed of. So just hold on to that dream of yours. I firmly believe that my job as a teacher does not stop within the four corners of my classroom, but should go beyond its walls. That is to see my students become productive and law-abiding citizens of the United States of America. It is a very fulfilling moment for any teacher who will see his or her students succeed in life as an important part of the society, and this is only possible if our beloved Mr. Senator Edgar Flores, through his good office, will help someone like me and every J1 teacher in the state of Nevada who devotes time and tremendous effort in nurturing our present generation, our youth, by extending our length of stay to more than 5 years. We are asking your help, Mr. Senator, to listen to our voice, because building the next generation of our society does not take only 5 years, but beyond. 2 months ago, I was in a Zoom meeting applying for a Pueblo scholarship grant for teachers who are teaching ELLs. I mentioned to the panel that I am a J1 teacher, and one of them told me not to continue because J1 visa is only good for 5 years. I was really saddened because I am thinking that my students will benefit if I was given the chance to proceed with my application. If only my visa could be longer than 5 years, I could have been a Pueblo scholar right now. I was saddened, yes, but not hopeless. I am hopeful that right now, our senators, after hearing my story, will find a way to make J1 visa good for more than 5 years, so that no J1 teacher in the future will ever experience what I had experienced. To Senator Flores and to other legislators who can hear my plea, please lend me your ears. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please know that next Monday I will be presenting a bill that is specifically crafted to help J1 teachers, both with PERS, as I know that the average life of a J1 is typically under 5 years, and PERS never vest. So we're working on that issue. We're also working on finding an alternative to the J1, a different type of visa that we could accept, which has less time constraints and or allows you to start with the J1 and then move over to a different type of visa. And then we're also trying to work with the governor's office on getting a declaration that you could utilize, and it would serve as a waiver in your application process. So we're doing all three things simultaneously. Please make sure you participate next Monday. It's specifically for you. We're doing this specifically for you. I hear you loud and clear, so thank you. Next presenter, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Vice Chair Flores and Assembly representatives and the committee. My name is Jorge Guillen. I am a school counselor at Global Community High School here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am finishing my 7th year, but I have been in education for the past 10 years. Global Community High School is the only school that serves refugee and newcomer students in the Valley. As we all know, adjusting to a new country and culture can be a daunting experience, particularly for young people who are still developing their sense of identity and self-esteem. This is especially true for those who come from non-English speaking countries and who face language barriers in addition to the typical challenges of adolescence. Bilingual counselors play a critical role in helping these students navigate their new surroundings, providing emotional support, advocating for their needs in their language. We are uniquely positioned to understand these students' cultural nuances and linguistic challenges and can provide a bridge between the student and the school community. Checking in with your students' work, saying things like, "How are you doing today? How was your weekend? Do you understand your assignment? Have you eaten? Do you feel safe at home?" All these phrases have a powerful impact on a student. They feel connected, they feel heard, but most importantly, they feel valued and cared for. That is important. If at any point a student is able to connect with an adult they trust on campus, that is a win in my book. One of the main advantages of bilingual counselors is that we can communicate effectively with students and parents who may not speak English fluently. This can help build rapport, trust and rapport, which is crucial for students to feel supported and acknowledged. Students from non-English speaking households are more likely to drop out of high school and less likely to pursue higher education. Counselors can help address these disparities by providing culturally sensitive support and advocating for resources and accommodations and helping students build academic and social skills. Therefore, I urge you to consider adding provisions to legislation that support the hiring and training of bilingual counselors in at-risk high schools that serve newcomer students. Let's invest in our youth and ensure that they receive the support they need to succeed and break down barriers for future generations to come. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And thank you for joining us. Again, in the interest of time, we're just going to continue rolling right into the next speaker, please.
Susie Ruiz for the record. Good afternoon. Thank you, Vice Chair Edgar Flores, Assembly Representatives, and members of the Education Committee for your service and your time today. I am Susie M. Reese, MSW, and a school safety professional at Global Community High School. Global Community High School is a small-scale school of choice serving grades 9 through 12, established 2005. Global is dedicated to offering a welcoming, nurturing environment for high school students new to the United States. The interventions at Global Community High School create social justice and social change for newcomers, immigrant students arriving recently in the United States. The staff at Global aims to assist high school students with a cultural transition to the American school systems, while also focusing on English language development, social-emotional lessons, core graduation requirements, and preparation for post-secondary opportunities. Global Community High School continues to assist students with limited or interrupted academic backgrounds in reaching their educational goals. The plans consist of assisting students with the transition to American culture, introducing and enhancing language acquisition, providing small school environment, consisting of ongoing basic needs assessment, assisting students, and working collaboratively with parents and guardians. Even though newcomers are as capable and willing to succeed as their U.S.-born peers, many face unique challenges and many have distinguished social emotional needs. For example, some newcomers may have trauma from fleeing wars, countries, or being separated from family members during the immigration process. They are dealing with this trauma while simultaneously negotiating new roles and identities in unfamiliar cultural contexts. Those in this situation sometimes go through a silent period, and as the student and their family adjust to their new environment and take in the information, the silent period may last from a few days to a few months, even up to a year. To ensure that newcomers adapt and thrive academically, socially, emotionally, Global staff offers an array of strategies such as social-emotional classroom lessons, small and boys-girls group, school-wide events that introduce newcomers to American traditions such as Pumpkin Bash, Winter Wonderland, and Carnival. Integrating social-emotional skills and community partnerships was critical to helping newcomers form a sense of self, management emotion, maintaining healthy and personal and professional relationships. SEL teaches students how to practice empathy towards others and groups. It supports developing newcomer skills in the classroom, the school, and the community. For the past 3 years, I have served global students and families in vulnerable situations by assisting them applying for childcare, food stamp, free legal aid, mental health resources, crisis interventions, free weekly meals, and basic needs, working with family members and other individuals in a child living situation to help support their adjustment, learning and development as they learn to adapt to the U.S. Let me share with you an example of my days serving global students. Occasionally, I attend and Immigration Court with students whose parents have been deported and have nobody left to aid in the U.S. Global students are resilient, hardworking, full ambition to achieve their educational goals. Global students remind me daily that I must fight for social justice that will enhance diverse communities' well-being and complex needs, and not giving up to continue to advocate for newcomers and refugee students. Therefore, please consider addition provision to legislation that supports increased hour holiday and summer pays for school safety professionals, social workers, and serving the diverse needs of all CCS students and families. Thank you for allowing me to advocate for our newcomers and refugee students today. And for the record, we did provide a PowerPoint with some information and images of our students while they're integrating with the new activities for school-wide. Thank you.
And thank you. We'll go right into the next presenter, please. I wanted to give folk lay of the land. 3:30 p.m. is when the some of the afternoon committees start. And so a lot of the members, unfortunately, are including myself, were unfortunately going to have to be running around. So I think what I'm going to do is just I'll send you a message individually in a second, but we would like to roll some of the presentations. Again, I understand a lot of work was put into them. So we'll start the conversation, but then we'll roll some of them and we'll try to coordinate with you either if we do it next week or some different date. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. But please start.
Lori Navarrete, for the record. Thank you, Vice Chair Flores and the Senate Education Committee members. My name is Dr. Lori Navarrete, and I'm a professor at Nevada State College, and it is my honor, our honor, to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to introduce panel 3. It is entitled Growing a Diverse Teacher Workforce, Nevada State College's Programs and Priorities to Address Gaps and Serve Nevada Students. We also submitted a PowerPoint. I'm not sure, I don't think I see it, so, oh, it is, okay. All right. So I'm here to introduce the panelists. The first panelist will be Ms. Rosemary Q. Flores, and she will be introducing the Teacher Academy Pipeline Project, and she's the coordinator of this program. Next will be Dr. Vanessa Mauri, and she is an associate professor of the School of Education at Nevada State College, and she will be talking about the English language learner and dual language programs at Nevada State College. And then next is Dr. Marcela Rodriguez Campo, and she's the Director of Community and Equity, Diversity and Inclusion at Nevada State College, and she will be talking about Nevada State College's docu-teachers and programs and initiatives. So last but not least, and probably most important, we'll have a student, Leslie Arias, will be speaking during public comment. So I will turn it over so the panelists have time to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Muy buenas tardes, Vice Chair Flores and members of the Education Committee. My name is Rosemary Q. Flores, and I am the Teacher Academy Pipeline Project Coordinator for Nevada State College. And in slide number 3, you'll see that TAP's mission is to cultivate secondary school students' interest in the teaching profession and to grow the number of local, culturally responsive teachers who serve within our community. Strategically, we have developed a pipeline to recruit and retain students, especially diverse students, into careers in education. You'll see on slide 4, the first step for us is to meet with our Clark County School District administrative partners, including the principals, to explain our mission and service delivery and form a partnership. Secondly, our faculty liaisons vet our part-time instructors who are the ones who will teach dual credit with our missions understanding, and we hire them. Third, our TAP site coordinator, Esmeralda Carretero Rodriguez, begins her school site visits and connects the teachers with students and mentors. Fourth, together they explain the opportunities to access college through dual credit and encourage dual credit enrollment. Fifth, our site coordinator works closely with our School of Education College student mentors who receive training on how to be responsive to the cultural differences of our diverse student population. Sixth, our mentors, college mentors, begin to develop and deliver culturally responsive lessons, practicing the pedagogy that is responsive to students' culture. Thus, This begins to build a stronger relationship and an understanding of the dire need for diverse teachers. Number 7, in the spring, 9th and 10th graders visit the college campus as future educators and attend workshops that are created by our college student mentors. Number 8, in the fall, 11th and 12th graders who are in dual credit visit the campus during Scholars Day and attend presentations delivered by our college professors. And number 9, TAP students graduate from high school and attend the Scorpion Summer Bridge program on campus to learn more about campus life, accessing services, planning their academic coursework, and applying for their student worker jobs. And finally, they're on their way to degree completion. And on slide number 5, you will see an outline of our TAP service delivery and outreach, and you'll see some numbers. We are at 9 Clark County School Districts, public schools, all over the valley. We have 10 part-time instructors teaching the EDU dual credit courses. Our team is comprised of myself as TAP coordinator and 2 site coordinators. We work directly with our 7 college mentors developing the lessons. TAP presentations are delivered in 45 classroom periods during this school year. This school year alone, we have already done 130 presentations that have been implemented by our college mentors and site coordinators. They have reached up to 1,300 high school students. Of these 1,300, 290 of our students are taking EDU dual credit. We offer 5 EDU courses, but these students also can take other EDU, non-EDU courses or non-education courses. And we partner collaboratively with over 40 faculty, professors, and staff on our campus who contribute their time on the project because of their belief in it. To conclude, on slide number 6, you will see our amazing TAP students visiting our campus this school year. Over 600 students attended our 6 campus events this school year alone. Next year, we're partnering with Desert Pines, giving students the option to choose bilingual education, increasing dual credit opportunities, and Dr. Vanessa Mari will be our faculty liaison with bilingual education dual credit course. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for
Buenas tardes.
I apologize to cut you off. I just want to let some folk know. Unfortunately, because there's another committee starting, we're going to lose the feed to that room because it's going to switch over to a different committee. So before I do that, though, so that we can at least close out your presentation again, and we have your slides. How many more minutes do we have approximately on your presentation?
6 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll do that, and then unfortunately we're going to have to lose the feed because unfortunately there's another committee starting, and we will coordinate with the folk that we're hoping to present for a later time, and we can do it next week. So with that, we'll close it out with this last 6 minutes, and then unfortunately we're going to have to switch out. Please.
Okay, thank you. This is Vanessa Mari. For the record, I'm an associate professor of TESOL and bilingual education at Nevada State. I wanted to start this presentation by talking about how there's 17% of our students are multilingual learners and 24% of our students on CCSD are multilingual learners. Yet we barely have any dual language or bilingual schools in our district. For me personally, if I wanted my daughter to be in a bilingual school, it would take me a 40-minute drive for her to be in one. NSC, though, one of the efforts that we're doing is to change this is that we're the only institution to offer a bilingual endorsement for teachers. And a lot of our students, so far we have 12 admitted and 35 pre-major students in our program who are getting bilingually endorsed. Being the only institution in our state that is preparing these teachers is very important for us, but it's also surprising given that we really need more bilingual teachers working on our schools. On the next slide, you're going to see the amount of endorsed teachers that we have on our district. Only 283 teachers currently have a bilingual endorsement that they probably brought from another state. We have a total of 5,632 teachers who either have bilingual or any ELAT endorsement. This is a very small number because there's a total of about 18,000 teachers in our district. One of the efforts that we're doing working with CCSD is that we are endorsing 130 teachers per year to get either the ELAT or bilingual endorsement. So it is very important for us that we're going to be tripling this number and within the next 3 years. Some of the research that I've been doing and looking at what are some of the obstacles that teachers have that you're able to see on the next slide include, for example, statements like my ability to read in Spanish is much greater than my speaking, so I find it difficult at times to best serve students that are very limited in English. My biggest challenge is addressing their needs is that I am not fluent in Spanish. My biggest challenge is communication. Unfortunately, I do not speak a second language, and I always feel like a failure when I cannot understand my students or they cannot understand me. And finally, my biggest challenge is helping students pass all their classes, particularly those that don't have Spanish-speaking teachers. Those non-Spanish-speaking teachers have a hard time teaching multilingual students and rely on bilingual Spanish-English-speaking students. All of the challenges that these teachers have are addressed in our program and are addressed when they're doing either their bilingual or ELAT endorsement. With the current agreement that we have with CCSD, we're only able to serve 130 teachers, but we had over 400 teachers apply to get endorsed in this. So it really lets me know that there is a big interest and that we need to be supporting teachers in getting the professional development that they need, going back to higher education, getting endorsed, getting CU credits, so that they're able to continue supporting our students. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
For the record,
So, how much more time do we have?
3 minutes.
So I'm going to have to end the presentation at the last speaker because we're going to lose the feed. And so just like Senator Flores mentioned, Vice Chair, we'll roll the presentation to next week to accommodate the presentation today. And so with that, I'm going to close out the presentation from Nevada State and then open up for public comment. I apologize to you guys. So we'll start in Vegas for public comment. State your name for the record.
Heather Nave for the record. My son Julian Reynoso attends kindergarten at Strong Start Academy Elementary School. I grew up in Las Vegas and I attended elementary, middle, and high school here. Unfortunately, I did not have the best experience with the schools I attended, and I ended up dropping out of high school when I was 16 years old. After making that decision, I knew one day when I had my family that I was going to do everything I could to give them the best chance at their education. When I had Julian, I knew from the moment I was pregnant with him that our local zone school was not where I wanted him to go. When he was 4 years old, Julian attended Strong Start Go Mobile Pre-K, which is a free pre-K program provided by the city of Las Vegas. And this is where it all started for us. We had such a great experience with pre-K program, and this is where he learned the foundation of what he knows today. While Julian was enrolled in the mobile pre-K, I became more aware of the many resources and opportunities that the city has to offer. One of them being the new charter school that was opening in the school year of 2023-2024. I was so excited about him going to this school that made bilingual learning a priority for their students. This charter school has changed my family's life in so many ways, starting with me having the opportunity to serve as the parent representative on the board and being able to be an active parent in my son's education that I always have wanted to be. I have also had the opportunity to get back in the work field by joining AmeriCorps after being a stay-at-home mom for 3 years. Julian is only halfway into his kindergarten year and is now reading at a 3rd grade level. Julian is also beginning to do 3- and 4-digit addition and subtraction math problems. And one of the best benefits I have seen is he's starting to read in Spanish and speak in Spanish to anyone he has the opportunity to speak it to. And when I read to him in Spanish, he now corrects me on how I'm supposed to say the words. As his mother, it's so amazing to see his face light up when he talks about school and talks about everything that he is learning. This
So,
school has offered him such a safe place
Excuse
to
me.
learn.
Thank you so much.
Yes?
But you've reached the 2 minutes. So, but you can turn in your written testimony to the committee.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Next speaker for public comment.
Good afternoon, committee. For the record, I am an anonymous student. I am an undocumented student at Nevada State College and an aspiring teacher. I stand here before today to speak in support of bringing undocumented students into the conversation when discussing dual language access. I want to use this time to address two main points that merit emphasizing as you consider your vote on this issue. First, the longing of undocumented students to pursue the teaching profession which they have been kept out of. When it comes to being an educator, many teach because it is their passion. They want to inspire the new generations to reach for the world and achieve greatness. It is a calling. Since I was little, education has been very important to me, and eventually teaching became an aspiration of mine at the age of 5 years old. As I pursued my education, I did not see many teachers who lived in the same low-income neighborhoods that I did, so I doubted whether or not I can achieve what they did. That did not stop me, and I kept going. Despite my passion for being a teacher, I am standing here today with 1 year left until getting my teaching license and bachelor's degree, knowing that I cannot use them because I lack a social security number. This is a reality many undocumented students who want to be teachers face. Our state is seeing one of the most severe teacher shortages of our lifetimes, and undocumented teachers like myself want to answer that call. Second, the role undocumented students can play in dual language access. Many undocumented students at Nevada State are bilingual. We have the ability to speak our home language and English with ease. This being said, undocumented students can help with dual language access. Growing up, we helped our siblings and our parents understand English. As aspiring teachers, we can help students with their education since we have been in their shoes. We know what they are thinking when they see a math word problem and only focus on the numbers, hoping they can figure out the right answer. We know and understand the cultural and linguistic challenges. If given a chance, we can help them because we have been them. Thank you for your time. I offer these remarks and ask you to bring undocumented students into the conversation when talking about dual language access. Now more than ever, students in our state need educators who share their experiences like myself. You can make that possible by expanding legal services to all higher education institutions by passing AB 382 and by supporting dual language access programs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next. State your name.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Leslie Arias. Good afternoon, buenas tardes, members of the committee. I'm currently a junior at Nevada State College, as well as a Teacher Academy Pipeline mentor. What I'd like to talk about is my timeline as a former TAP student and what I've been able to accomplish because of TAP and Nevada State College's dual credit program. I became a TAP student at East Career and Technical Academy in the fall of 2018. They presented culturally responsive pedagogy and invited me on campus field trips. They gave me meaningful college guidance that was specific towards my own goals. In 2020, I began taking Nevada State College/TAP dual credit courses. I took so many of these courses that by 2022, I graduated with 37 credits on my transcript, the equivalent of an entire year of college completed. I also did it at the price of only $25 per credit, saving me around $7,200 in tuition. That same year, I began taking classes at Nevada State College, and I was hired as a Teacher Academy Pipeline mentor, which means that the incredible people who had once made college accessible to me are now my colleagues that I assist in making college accessible to our current TAP students. Because this program empowered me so greatly, I've committed to taking 8 classes per semester, as well as winter and summer courses. I've successfully applied and was admitted into a graduate school prep program, the McNair program, and I also presented at a national conference about the work that the Teacher Academy Pipeline Project has done and all that it has helped bilingual Latino youth like me achieve. It's only my second semester in Nevada State College, but I'm graduating in the fall of next year with 2 bachelor's degrees and will hopefully enter the classroom as a high school English teacher by 2025. All because of the jumpstart in college guidance that the Teacher Academy Pipeline Project and Nevada State College gave me. Gracias.
Thank you for your testimony. All right, so is that everyone in Vegas for public comment? Okay, so then we'll move up to Carson City for public comment.
Thanks, Patricia Haddad, Director of Government Relations for the Clark County School District. First and foremost, really inspired by the folks that were providing presentations and public commenting on the hard work that you do to prepare and your interest in becoming an educator. I think it's really excellent. Can't wait to see you join us all in this work. And then the other thing I did want to clarify and correct earlier in the discussion with regards to the vote count for the bill draft request, I was incorrect. It was not unanimous. I did look up the wrong, there were multiple votes that happened in that one particular one, and that was a 4-3 vote. I do apologize to you, Senator, and I wanted to make sure that I corrected that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next.
My name is John Appolito. You can find 1,500 of us on Facebook at Protect Nevada Children. I wanted to talk to you about all the free EdTech software and apps students are required to use for their education. By now, many people realize these vendors are paid with student data. Edmodo was one of the earliest and largest free EdTech vendors used in our schools. Students could use Edmodo for all their subjects, plus it had a social media aspect built in. Edmodo had the most student data and information and richest student profiles of any EdTech vendor, and way more data than TikTok will ever have on our children. In 2017, Edmodo had a data breach where student data was placed for sale on the dark web. In 2018, the entire company of Edmodo was sold to the Chinese. Late in 2018, the FBI put out a public service announcement warning about EdTech companies. In 2020, the FBI said the Chinese are building a massive database on every American. 2022, the Chinese shut down Edmodo. But they still have all that student data, information, and those very rich student profiles on U.S. students. Here's one example of why this is so problematic. We know of at least 12 students whose admission to Harvard was rescinded because of something they posted on Facebook. What Facebook knew about these 12, 18-year-olds pales in comparison to what the Chinese know about U.S. students who used Edmodo for even 1 year. No one knows all the implications of how all this student information and student profiles in the hands of the Chinese and all these other free EdTech vendors may affect the future of our children. The children of Nevada need your help. Unfortunately, only 3 of you are here.
Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
All right, so is the BPS, is there anyone on the phone line for public comment?
If you would like to provide public comment, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you, BPS. So we will go ahead and adjourn Senate Committee on Education.